Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case is, wherever you are, and welcome to another installment of the UB Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness's 52 Weeks of Leadership program. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, it's summer, it's July, and we're off to summer camp for a very special installment today. Honestly, filmed at summer camp. I wish I could have been there. We're partnering this month with the Girl Scouts of Western New York, and our theme, building a better workplace for our youth to inherit. Please join us as we see what we can learn from our two featured experts from this month, Alison Wilcox, the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Western New York, and Dr. Minchuan Tu, an assistant professor right here at UB in our Department of Organization and Human Resources. Let's join them now.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Campfire Chat today. My name is Minchuan Tu. I'm an assistant professor from the School of Management at UB. Today I'm really honored to be invited to one of the Girl Scout camp to chat with Alison, to learn from her, to have some conversation between practical practices and research. So now Alison, do you want to speak a little about the Girl Scout?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for coming out today. Really happy to have everyone watching our Campfire Chat and visiting us at Girl Scout Camp. So Girl Scouts of Western New York, we cover the 9 counties of the Western New York region, and our mission is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Here we're at one of our camps, Camp 7 Hills in Holland, New York, and in Empire Lodge. And so it's really great to have you here to experience some of what we offer to girls in the region. And our girls learn all kinds of leadership skills in 4 different ways, through life skills, through our outdoor programs and camps, entrepreneurship program, you may have heard of Girl Scout cookies, and then also STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math programs.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wish I can be a child again so I can join the camp. Yeah, so I will start with one of the questions that I'm very interested in asking you.
Great.
So I study leader identity and development. So I'm very interested in how a leader, especially a new leader, their previous experiences to shape who they are. So I want to hear about your story, especially I know a lot of female. We're kind of growing up with lower confidence. We feel like we cannot be a leader. And then that kind of impacting how we are in a leadership role. And then I'm wondering, what's your experiences? Do you have something similar experiences? What's your journey of a leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that I didn't, as a young child, imagine myself as a leader. I was very active and responsible in my family. I had a lot of younger siblings, so I definitely was taking responsibility and trying, to be a good person, but it never would have occurred to me that I'd one day be leading people. And I really think when I look back, I had a lot of early jobs, right from 7th grade, I was working in farms or different places in the rural area. And when I was 19 years old, I was hired to be a day camp director for a rural camp in my small town in Ontario, Canada. And I just it sounded like way better than a lot of other things I could be doing that summer. I'd been cleaning bathrooms the previous year, and I was like, this I really, really want to see if I could get. And they hired me, and the claim to fame, they said, was I was just 1 year older than a lot of the other applicants. So I really had no idea what I was doing, except for a love of children. I went in, and I have to say I really did struggle with self-esteem before that experience. And that summer, seeing the children really enjoying the program and looking up to me and going through a lot of tough situations, but handling them, and then managing a team of counselors and making the camp program possible. And people may hear us right now, there's
it's like a
nice torrential rain downpour coming down, that's part of camp. And then I really felt that I blossomed from that experience. And when I went back to school the next year, a lot of my friends said that I seemed like a changed person. And so what I realized was that it wasn't to wait until I was confident enough to start leading. I gained confidence by doing it and by leading. And so I always tell anyone who aspires to be a leader, or young people and our Girl Scouts, that it's learning by doing. You jump in. Don't wait until you feel ready.
Right.
Don't wait until you feel confident. Your confidence grows by trying things, taking risks, learning from failures, and just also learning by the successes you'll have.
Yeah, I really like the takeaway here, because we usually feel like, oh, we have to be well prepared to get into the role. But I like it like you actually could learn and grow confident during the process. So for example, in some of my research, we study intervention, how to help people to grow confident. And then one thing we really like to say is like fake it until you make it. So I feel like this actually echo a lot of things that I'm doing right now, like how to like even before interview or before you're doing something, don't think too much, trying to self-talk and increasing your confidence, and you are going to grow that confidence when you see you can actually doing it, try and error. So I really love the takeaway here. So I'm very interested in, since you're talking about the leadership role, about what do you think make a good leader, and then what do you think are some of the...
And I started aspiring to learn as much as I could. So I went back to school and got my master's in leadership and kept trying to figure out like how could I be the best leader. And I think what I've learned just from working with people is that it's not about what you do when you're a leader.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how talented you think you are. It's how much do you inspire and grow others, and that's really what is different from being, an employee or a leader. Is your performance being measured on how well others do in your leadership? And I think also it's just so critical for leaders to take their job really seriously and take responsibility that you affect people's lives. And so whatever you can do, no one is perfect, but just learn, always be learning, always be taking feedback, be looking to improve, and just being receptive. I think like as CEO of the Girl Scouts of Western New York, that the workplace culture for our staff, employees, and our staff and our volunteers and our Girl Scouts and all of our members, shaping a positive culture for them is my number one job. And there's really nothing else that you can do if you don't have that first to meet the mission. So I take that very seriously. And we've been evolving, especially in the last 2 years, I think. So employee expectations have risen so much more, and they're taking workplaces much more accountable. And we're really seeing that as an opportunity to keep meeting this moment and getting better. So we've set a vision that we're calling creating a better workplace for our Girl Scouts to inherit.
Characteristic or some challenges.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say that when I was earlier in my career, I had some examples of some really great leaders, and then I also had some examples of leaders that I think people would call toxic behaviors, like in their leadership skills. And I started realizing the impact and the power that a leader has on an organization and on people. And I learned a lot about what I did not want to do myself, and I learned a lot about what I would want to do by those examples. And there were just some things that I encountered where I realized how much of an impact that you can have on someone's life. That really inspired me to be a leader and to helping, meet what other people need. We could go on and on definitely about what good leaders are, but I think those are just some ways to start. And I truly just believe that leaders have such an impact that it's taking responsibility for the power that you have and using it for good.
Yeah, I for sure agree with that. So I study abusive leader, and then we know how leader, the top down impact from how to influence the subordinates, even though it's just like one-time interaction. For example, from my own research, the employee could certainly learn abusive behavior from their leaders. So how impactful a leader's role is, but also how heavy, difficult and challenging this role is, we cannot really deny it. But I think you're right, leader shapes a good work environment. So I'm wondering, how do you see, as your leadership role, how do you think makes a positive work environment? And then as you kind of extended what you just mentioned, what do you think a leader's role in shaping this positive work?
Absolutely. Stepping outside of our organization, that could be the next generation to inherit, but really looking at what would make a workplace meet today's employees who they're juggling so many family responsibilities. There's so many different demands in their life, and just really making sure that we're supporting them and making sure that, for example, how friendly are we to childcare needs or people taking care of other relatives in their house or their family, being as flexible as possible, just so that people can have a really balanced life. And then I think for a positive workplace culture too, it's really looking at your equity, your inclusion, the welcoming environment you're creating, and are people feeling they can show up to be authentically who they are and to do their best work and have purpose. I think that's the type of workplace culture that we're trying to do. And I look at it as if we hired our Girl Scouts when they graduate from our program and they came to work for us, would they think this is a place I'm proud to be?
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I know like Girl Scout of West New York have won like the best places to work in the past few years, which is like really amazing. And then one other thing I was very excited to have the opportunity to chat with you, it's because of the uniqueness of you and also about the Girl Scout, like as a woman leader and then leading our new generation of the girls. And I really motivated to learn like how to creating a better environment for them in the future. And then so I was curious because we know there's a lot of discussion also in research too to talk about, for example, how COVID interrupted a lot of women's work and career because they have to like get back to their house to take care of the kids, or a lot of women the challenge of getting back to workplace, how to juggling between work family balance. And it's also the same in academia as well. A lot of like my friend who are in the role, they mentioned that they took like the parental leave for a year, and then that year was like very struggling, but their male like a man colleague who took that year, they actually came back and say, I really enjoyed this year because I published a lot of paper. And then my girls' friends, they are really angry about it because they feel like it's not fair for women because when they take the year off, they really just take care of the kids without doing any work. So my question is like, since you're working with most of your employees, 90% are female, and you're working with the new generation, our Girl Scouts. So what do you think maybe some of the challenges they're facing, and what do you want to like do for like strategically helping them to resolve those challenges at work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I was shaped by, first of all, I came from Canada where we had really supportive family leave policy. So when I had my son in Canada, I had a 12-month paid maternity leave from the government. And I realized how important that was. And I also, living here in Western New York, was a working mom for my whole career here. My son just graduated and I found it really tough. So I can't say it wasn't hard, and I think everyone who has gone through being a working parent, it's the day becomes a grind. So your whole work week is a grind. You are getting up super early. You're making lunches and breakfasts and getting kids on the school bus and I just remember I had this limited amount of time where I could get my son into the before program, make it to work, do the 8 hours, and then get back for the after school. If anyone asked me for like an extra meeting, there was literally no time, and you just start feeling all these competing demands. It's extremely stressful. And then when we got into the pandemic and all of a sudden the infrastructure of childcare went away and school, and parents were trying to juggle being teachers to their children, it just really exacerbated it. And we saw a record number of women leaving the workforce, and it affected so many people. So I just feel that, as To Walk Our Own Talk, as a program for growing the next generation of women leaders, that it's really important that we're doing that at the Girl Scouts of Western New York. And I'd advocate for any leaders to be really considering what are the needs of the employees. And so we've been looking at a lot of different things. We've tried to keep as many flexible options for our team. We're starting with what do our members need from us? What do our customers need? And then matching that to the most flexibility. So, and to help family demands, we're also taking a look at exploring the 4-day work week. And that's something that we're taking a look at, as well as just offering different supports, focusing on mental health supports for the team, making sure we're really looking. And I think it's not just policy. So there's a lot of policies you have to look at, your family leave policies, things like that. But you also, it's the one-to-one interactions as well. So for example, whenever we have a team member who says they're looking at, they're having a child soon and they're looking at family leave, I always say to them, are you sure that's enough time that you want to take? Because you'll never get this time back. So, really consider that. Don't worry about us. We're going to be okay. The job will be here. And I think you have to kind of back it up with really letting people know, because we found our team are so conscientious that they just want to be so helpful that we
Right.
just have to sit down with them and say, okay, we need you to take care of yourself too. And I think, so it's your policy, but it's also how you get to know people and interact with people too, so that you're making sure that they feel that they can trust you, that they can take advantage of those benefits.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I feel like a lot of like women at work, we're so afraid of leaving the workplace for so long, and you feel like I don't feel needed anymore. So that kind of the fear, I'm really glad that you guys actually have those conversations, and then to look into the flexible work schedule. I really love the idea about 4-day work week. I actually have a topic in my organizational behavior class with my undergrad students, and they love the topics. Of course, before COVID, one of the topics they love more is like virtual working, so they can actually do vacation everywhere while they're working. But of course, COVID make this happens more. It's not future of work, it's like now. But the 4-day work week, it's another one they feel very excited about. And then we know Japan and then Denmark have practiced this a little bit to trying to improve the employees' well-being, especially in Japan. Their suicide rate is so high because of work pressure. So I really love the design, and I'm so happy that you make this not future of work anymore. It's like a real one that you're trying to implement. So I'm very interested in some of the details about this like plan. How could that work? Because I know some concern people have for the 4-day work week is like, how can we ensure productivity? How can we ensure like even we are missing somebody, but our team can still function really well?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of concerns and questions that come up when you look at the 4-day work week. So what we thought would be the best way to go was to give those questions and problems back to the staff members themselves.
Right.
So we had a cross-functional team of staff all across the organization, and they put together a future of work planning guide, and they thought through what are all the things you would have to think through.
Right.
And based on like meeting the needs of the customers, which is a lot of people's concern, and then how we find out what employee preferences are and so many people are like, how do you do it? Is it compressed week, longer days? Is it regular days? Is it staggered? Is everyone on the same schedule? Those are a lot of considerations. So what was really easy for us was we gave it to every department to come up with what worked for them, because our camp team is very different from our retail team. And we have our product program who supports the cookie program with our Girl Scouts. We have volunteer support. We have program specialists. We have fundraisers. We have recruiters. We have a finance department, IT. It's not going to fit for everybody. So we thought that they were the smartest people to figure it out. And then they submitted plans, and their plans asked those tough questions as well. Here are some problems that we think could happen. So we basically got all the, this collective wealth of knowledge from everyone on the team. And then when we looked at it, what was really amazing was almost everyone came in very consistent. And I thought it was going to be all over the place how it was going to come in, but people pretty much all kind of came in with the same idea, what they thought. And when I think it's just challenging that it's not necessarily, you might have like for us, we think our work is best measured at the quality of the work and how much we're meeting the needs of the customers, and not necessarily on hours worked. So we're challenging that idea, because I feel like, someone who's really stressed out isn't as productive.
Exactly.
So if you're rested and you're able to focus better on your work, I think you can be a lot more productive, and you don't necessarily have to work long hours to achieve that. So we're doing it as a pilot. We're studying it. It's going to be for 1 year. And research that I got from Chloe, actually, and the Chloe conference told me that a 1-year pilot was the best way to make sure that the Hawthorne effect, or people knowing you're studying them, can go away, so you can truly see how well it works. So that's why we set the year. And we think it's going to be messy. So we just said, let's just go in, and then we'll figure out, are there bouncy balls dropping or crystal balls dropping, and like which ones, how do we reshape it and communicate? And I'm also hoping that for our members, they can see we're really trying to shape and lead the way workforces are going to be supporting our Girl Scouts when they enter the workforce. And so we want to be leaders on that. And so we're really hoping they're with us on this as well. And we'll just keep monitoring ourselves by, did we meet the needs of the Girl Scouts? Did we meet the needs of our volunteers? And that's the important thing to focus on, and seeing if we can achieve that while still meeting the needs of our employees as well.
Yeah, I can agree with that more because so some of my research focusing on employee well-being, how to help people, for example, detach from work. It is really hard, and now our work life kind of blended all together, very messy up. And it's really, and there's a lot of talk on discussion on work interruption, for example. Some of the data show every 3 minutes you probably go interrupted. I'm sure your role as a leader, you're going to experience more, but that also means in average you may actually lost 6 hours per day just dealing with all the interruption. But if we're thinking about, for example, some popular talk on deep thinking, so you really working on those valuable work for 6 hours per day, for example, and that's better than you work 8 or 9 hours, and then long hours certainly doesn't help with employees' well-being. So I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I know a lot of people would joke about the show The Office.
Yes.
And I worked in various different places where often I would come home earlier in my career, and my family would be like, do you guys ever really work? Because when they would hear all the things that we did. So I do believe that there's a lot of things that can disrupt an 8-hour day. And so if you're giving people just time to really focus, that you could get a lot more done in shorter time, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really like that I feel like, as we mentioned earlier, as a woman leader, you driven from your own experiences and also as a working mom who struggle between work and life and trying to implement some of the practices that can help our new generation. And I really think that set a really good role model as well. For example, research show it is good for women to have a woman role model at work. It's actually more influential because the challenges, biases, things that we encounter are more similar, and you know how to resolve it. But unfortunately, there's also another phenomena called queen bee effect. It's when women are promoted into a higher position, unfortunately, they don't help their fellow women to grow or to improve, and that's very very sad. So I think my last question to ask you is generally, what will you be your advice for women at work, how to navigate the challenges or biases, and also how could a woman leader help the fellow and then to create a better workplace for our new generation, which is very important. And of course, not forgetting our men audience. What can they do too to collaborate and together we build a better workplace for our new generation?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. And so the first part about my advice for women leaders and really anyone who aspires to be a leader, I would say just to keep raising your hand and really sharing your voice.
Yeah.
Because I think people are so afraid to say. So if you're sitting there frustrated by something or you see something that's not right and you think it should be better, take it to the people that can make a difference and really raise your hand. And because everyone has the potential to be a leader in whatever role you're in, it doesn't have to be a formal management job, but just really looking at what kind of difference do you want to make in this organization? Do you take ownership for the success of everyone, not just your own role? And that's I think something I would really recommend is having that confidence to raise your hand and share your voice is so critical for supporting women leaders. And I think and any employee, I just think it comes back to really understanding a focus of your organization on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that understanding if there's barriers or roadblocks to anyone, whether it be their gender, their race, ethnicity, language, sexual orientation, whatever it is, abilities, are we really looking at removing the obstacles so people can be their best? And then one thing specifically for women leaders, I would say, is that when you look at the amount of leaders who are men, who's the majority of leaders out there, they often say that men have sponsors and women have mentors. So women have a lot of people saying, encouraging them, telling them they can do it.
Cheerleader.
And then men have sponsors who actually open the door and give them the job. And so it's just for people to think who do I keep thinking I want to be promoting? And am I promoting a lot of people that are like me? Am I promoting anyone that's not like me? And just, I think that's why it kind of goes back, I think, just to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts is that giving everyone that chance and really thinking about who's getting those opportunities, who's getting the training and development, who's supporting them is really active. It's not just encouraging people, but it's also putting them in the opportunity, and then supporting them when they're in the opportunity, I think are really, really critical.
That's great. I love all the advice you were given, and then which also made me think about one of the recent research during COVID. Actually, it's a lot of discussion on how like people have a assumption that men it's better leader during a challenging time because we need, for example, assertive way just like dealing with COVID or anything. But the research actually show women it's actually a better role during this kind of a changing and actually challenging time because women leader are more likely to listen, to collaborate, trying to know everybody's obstacle and trying to remove them. So I feel like that it's also a really good perspective to getting. I think there's some uniqueness. We're not trying to say like woman leader is better, but I feel like there's certain strength that, like, for example, like you, the uniqueness that you can bring to the work environment, and then to help to build a better place for other women fellows who are usually left behind in many situations, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you look at the amount of women who are in leadership roles right now, there's still, like, we're not holding like at the level of our population. It's not representative, and you can really take that into women of color in particular, and and it spans across the board in whatever industry. What we found was the majority of women leaders were once Girl Scouts.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
The statistics show that like the majority of women in Congress, the majority of women business owners, the majority of women STEM leaders, and we say 100% of all U.S. Secretaries of State, and then also over 90% of women astronauts as well. So one of the things we found in that is that there's something in the Girl Scout program that teaching them that courage, that confidence, and that character, the team building, collaboration, that is so critical to their success, I think, and that they built all that confidence, from their early cookie businesses or their camp experiences. And we, like in our organization, we found during the pandemic, like I would say it definitely was the most challenging time I've ever led. I think it's very hard. And I think just for everyone to reduce the pressure. So that would be one of my advice is like, no one's perfect. I learned so many humbling things over the last years about all the ways I'm not perfect, very much. So I think it's just, are we trying to be better, than we were yesterday? But we found that the emotional intelligence and listening were probably the most important things. And our whole senior leadership team took emotional intelligence training, and we all thought, oh no, we're naturally all great at that. But when we took it, like I learned a whole bunch of things where I was like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that, or I didn't know that about myself. Wow, I have to work on that. And that was probably the most important thing that we did. So we had, I have some hard business skills. I think I'm a smart person. Those weren't necessarily the things that got me through this last 2 years or helped us like stay in business, I would say, was just that we really thought about what are our Girl Scouts going through right now? What are their families going through? What are the volunteers going through? What is the staff team going through? And just trying to take care of them. And then listening to them and lifting up what they were saying was most important as our compass. And we just kept coming back to, who are we? And at Girl Scouts, we have a promise, and we have a law, and we have a mission, and it centers us in doing the right thing. And that's really, in making the world a better place, is really that guiding post. So we just kept saying, like, is this the best way to go? So we just had to keep being challenged and making decisions that we thought were the right thing to do. And I found that compass really helpful, and the lifting and listening to people and doing it together. I'm sorry for like going a little long on this, but I just wanted to say, like, I think I was most challenged a year ago, and I started feeling like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I was really struggling, and I, just all of a sudden realized, like, I have a whole team of people. Like, why do I think I'm supposed to be the one that's supposed to figure it out? Like, I'm not as smart as like all these people. So I just started doing CEO listening sessions and just meeting with our staff team. And that was like the most important thing I think I ever did. And I'm repeating it again this year, and looking forward this next year to meeting more with our volunteers and girls now that, we're able to meet in person a lot more now. because I think like that would be, I think for leaders, is just that it's about people, and you need to know what people expect of you and what they need of you is really important.
Yeah, I really like the final part you mentioned, because in a lot of research I do, like self-reflection, self-awareness for the leader, that they kind of like reflecting who they are, who they want to be, like we call ideal leader self, like who do you want to become in the future. Those kind of like image and self-reflection really help the leader to improve themselves and then to like become better. And then the humble like experiences you mentioned kind of echo my colleagues' research as well, that really help the leaders to grow, be better. So I really think this matching with what you mentioned earlier on your leadership journey, you try it, do it, revise it, and then that's really a good lesson for everybody. Like, don't think about it too much. Don't put your shoulder, like the burden on your shoulder, but you can try and error, think about what other people think, and then that can really make the whole place better, like a positive place, and then utilize your strength and your uniqueness. So really appreciate our conversation, Alison. I learned a lot from you, and I think it's a really fun conversation that we're having. And thank you for inviting me to your camp.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And we really hope everyone enjoyed our visiting Girl Scout camp today. And it was so nice talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this very special installment of the 52 Weeks of Leadership. And a special thanks, of course, to our featured guests for the month, Alison Wilcox, CEO of the Girl Scouts of Western New York, and Dr. Min Chuan Tu. We'll see you next time.